Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Did you see when he came in and they were all mobbing him at home plate? He was holding his shirt.
Yeah, I think it's because this new thing is when you hit a walk-off home run, they rip your shirt off.
Exactly.
Which I don't quite understand why they do that. I mean, why are you ruining a perfectly good shirt?
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
I'm Josh in Toronto.
And I'm Skip in Montreal.
In today's episode, lead singers who also play goalie,
No sign of Marlins, man.
and bad TV guide descriptions.
But first, the World Series.
Okay, Skip, so we're going to talk a lot about baseball in this episode, and we're going to get into the emotional roller coaster that I've been on for the last 5 or 6 days. But before we do any of that, I have a few rapid-fire questions for you to get us started here.
Baseball related or?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Major League Baseball.
So the first one is, what channel have you been watching the World Series games on?
Interesting question.
And there's really only one correct answer to this question.
Well, I mean, I've been switching back and forth. But
that's the wrong answer.
No, but mainly watching on Fox.
Okay.
Mainly watching on Fox. I have switched to we should explain to the listeners like what we're talking about, because American listeners don't have the choice that we have.
Actually, I think they do, because they have the American feed on Fox and they have the international feed if they want.
But where do they get the international feed? On what channel?
Probably on MLB Network or
maybe on MLB Network.
I don't know. Somewhere. I'm sure they can get it somewhere.
It could be MLB Network. But here in Canada, anyways, on Sportsnet, we have what's the international feed. And the drawback of the international feed is that Buck Martinez is one of the announcers. And I just, like, he's brutal. Like, you can't listen to him call a game.
I'm just very surprised because they could get any color commentator they want from any of the 30 teams. Yeah. And so they can get anyone they want because none of them are working right now. Yeah. And this is the one that they select. I'm not sure why.
I think this decision is because they know that the international feed is reaching a lot of Canadian viewers. Or maybe they think that. This is my feeling. I'm basing this off of just my own intuition, that maybe their feeling is that the international feed is reaching a lot of Canadian viewers, and they want to give the Canadian viewers the voice that they're used to hearing, which is Buck Martinez, the voice of the Blue Jays. Except what they don't realize is that we Canadian viewers would prefer anybody else.
Now, I will say this. Matt Fazgurjan is doing the play-by-play, and I actually like him quite a bit.
He's fine. He's absolutely fine.
Yeah, he's good.
So I have been switching back and forth. Sometimes I like to hear what they're saying on the other channel and, get a different point of view, just to mix it up. But the real reason why I have been switching back is I find the picture quality much better on Sportsnet than it is on Fox. Anyways, that's for me anyways.
Okay, well, I've only watched about 30 seconds on Sportsnet, so I can't really say.
Okay.
But this was supposed to be rapid fire. So question number 2 is, have you been able to stay awake until the end of every World Series game?
No chance. Zero.
Nor have I. And the final rapid fire question, have you seen any Marlins man sightings at any of the games?
I haven't.
Nor have I.
I actually was looking closely yesterday because the shot from in Nationals Park, it's a really nice shot they have of behind home plate. You could see really, really clearly. And he's definitely not there. I mean, I don't think he is anyways.
No, I haven't seen him at all. So maybe they're all colluding to make sure he doesn't get the good seats. I don't know.
Maybe. He's got other things to do finally. I don't know.
So before the series started, you asked me if I was prepared for the Nationals to win the World Series, and I said absolutely not. And then during Game 2, in fact, I think in the first inning of Game 2, when the Nationals had a lead, we were texting each other, and I said to you, if the Nationals win Game 2, the series is over. And
I was about to text you the same thing. Like, when you beat Verlander and Cole, and you go up 2-0, both games winning in Houston, you don't want to say it's over, but like it's basically over.
Yeah.
And now Houston's obviously proved all of us wrong by coming back to win the next.
Well, we'll
games.
get to Game 3 and 4 in a second, but
yeah.
So After game 2, I don't know if you want to say the word depressed. I mean, that's a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, look,
I wasn't happy after game 2. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. I thought the series was over.
Right. Yeah, no, I did too. I mean,
especially the way they lost.
Yeah.
But let me talk a little bit about game 2, because the turning point in game 2, you remember the inning where Verlander was taken out of the game? That actually wasn't the turning point. That was a really bad inning. But the turning point happened a half inning before that, when the Astros were hitting, and AJ Hinch pinch hit for Robinson Chirinos, and it was a useless pinch hit appearance. I forget the name of the guy who pinch hit for him, but he struck out and the inning ended. And so the reason that was the turning point, in my opinion, was because 2 reasons. Number 1, first of all, you know how pitchers are, right? Pitchers are, they're very finicky. And so that meant that he had to bring a new catcher into the game. And so for the very next inning, Verlander was pitching to a different catcher that he had not seen the whole game. I mean, obviously they've been teammates all season. They know each other. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
But I have a feeling that the fact that he was throwing to a new catcher, it might have thrown him off a bit, and that led to the home run that he gave up.
If that's the case, that's pretty sad, though. But yeah.
Anyway, that's one thing. The other reason I think that was the turning point for game 2 was because up until that point, before he pinch hit for Chirinos, neither manager had made any moves. Neither manager had pinch hit for anyone. Neither manager had taken out their pitcher. Both pitchers had pretty much identical stats going into that inning. And so by the Astros pinch hitting, that meant that they were blinking first. It was almost as if they were like, oh, this is our only chance to score a run in this game. We need to capitalize on this. And so we better pinch hit. And they did, and it didn't work. So now they've used one of their few bullets, if you will.
Yeah.
And it didn't work. And the thing is, if you're behind in a game, I get that you might feel the need to do that. But the game was tied. And I felt it was a little bit too soon to be doing something like that.
Right.
Even though it might have been the 6th or the 7th inning at the time, I don't know. Still a little bit too soon to be doing that. So I thought that pinch hitting for Chirinos, who obviously in games 3 and 4 has been on fire, was the turning point in game 2.
Right.
Anyway, then you fast forward to game 3.
Right. You figure the Nationals have all the momentum. First World Series game in Washington since 1939. Something like this.
33, I think.
Whatever, yeah. Anyway. Well, the 30s, let's say, whatever. And, the fans there going nuts, and the atmosphere at the ballpark, and then Houston goes out and takes care of business. No?
Well, I think Dave Martinez made a big mistake in game 3 because I don't know how you don't have Howie Kendrick in your starting lineup. This guy has been the catalyst of your team throughout the postseason. I get that he's weak defensively. I get it. But you used him against the Cardinals at second base. You used him against the Dodgers at second base. So now, when the games are more important, you don't put him at second base and you don't put him in your starting lineup. And then you notice he brought him in to pinch hit, and he got a hit in his only pinch hit appearance in game 3.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that the Nationals would have won the game if Howie Kendrick started, but I think that was a mistake. And I think Martinez realized his mistake because in game 4, Howie Kendrick was in the starting lineup.
Yeah, he's an important batter in their lineup because, obviously, the Nationals lineups are revolving around 2 hitters, basically, right? Rendon and Soto. And then when you don't have anybody batting after Soto that the other team's respecting, it's huge, right? There's a huge drop off. Like, I get it, Zimmerman, whoever's batting after, it's not the same. Kendrick's a hitter, right? So
I think that was the turning point of game 3 and maybe possibly the series, because we'll see what goes on next.
Game 4, there was no turning point. Game 4 was, it was over.
No, because the turning point happened in game 3, and so far,
the
Astros have had the momentum.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that happened in game 3, I texted you during the week when MLB announced their Gold Glove nominees, and somehow Juan Soto, who's a phenomenal hitter, but an awful defensive player, is nominated for a Gold Glove as a left fielder. Like,
it makes zero sense. When you sent that to me, I was like, is this an article from The Onion? Is this some kind of spoof? Like, what is this?
He better not win.
Well, he probably won't, but still.
But then, I don't know if you saw what happened in Game 3. First of all, he makes this brutal throw to the plate that he shouldn't even thrown.
That throw was awful. First of all, you're right. He shouldn't have thrown it. And then when he did, he sailed it like a mile over everyone's head.
It reminded me of some of the throws you used to make 25 years ago from center field into the backstop.
This is true.
But you're not a professional, baseball player, and you have not been nominated for a Gold Glove award, so you get a pass.
Right, okay.
And then later in the game, a ball gets hit into the corner, and he butchered the ball, which led Altuve take an extra base.
He's an average outfielder at best.
At best. You're being generous.
At best. Average. So when you sent me that thing about the Gold Glove, it just reinforced everything that I've already known and always thought about the Gold Glove. The guys who are voting on this don't actually watch games.
Well, they probably watch the team that they cover, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
and then
who
they
can
looked
watch,
down the list
who
like,
can
yeah,
watch
Juan
15
Soto.
games a day?
Right. And they're like, oh yeah, Soto, he's a pretty good left fielder. We'll nominate him. But like, they have no clue that he can't catch. Right?
I mean, I don't know if you remember, I think it was against the Dodgers. There was a routine when
he was awful.
A routine fly ball that anyone could catch, and he totally blew it.
He made one great play in the postseason. I forget which series it was in. I remember him thinking, wow, that was a really nice catch. But yeah, he's no good. He's the most important player on the Nationals, don't get me wrong. They cannot get him out. He is scary every time he comes to the plate. Every single time he's at bat, you think he's going to hit a home run. That home run that he hit the other night, it's still going.
Man, that ball got out of here in a hurry. Anything travels that far, I'd have a damn stewardess on it, don't you think?
He hit it to opposite field and left fields. That was I was in awe of when I saw when you see the home run, it leaves the bat and it goes deep. You're like, wow, what a shot. But when they showed it like on the replay, how far the ball went and where it landed, holy smokes. I mean, talk about power, So
now, obviously, as disappointed as I was, after Game 2,
yeah,
I'm slightly giddy after Game 4.
Yeah.
Although
you're like the only person in the world, by the way, that's rooting for the Astros.
It feels like that because everyone I talk to hates the Astros, and I don't understand why.
Well, they came out this week, this whole story about this female's reporter and the assistant GM that got fired, and it's basically like the whole Astros organization looked like a bunch of a-holes. And I think a lot of people just don't like the Astros organization in general. They have this vibe of like, we're the smartest guys in the room and you guys don't know anything. But like, look, I'm rooting for the Astros too. Don't get me wrong. But like, we have different motives for rooting for the Astros. You're really more rooting against the Nationals and not for the Astros, wouldn't you say?
100%. But I mean,
right.
Let me touch on the 2 points that you made. First of all, the whole incident with the assistant general manager and how he treated the female reporter.
Yeah.
That's one idiot on the team. That's not the whole organization.
No. It's more than one idiot because...
And they fired him.
The problem is they fired him only because the whole organization looked like a bunch of idiots. They came out the next day and said, he didn't do anything wrong. We did our internal investigation. They tried to point the blame at the reporter from Sports Illustrated. And then when it came back that they were wrong and they were looking really, really bad, then they fired him. So I get it. Anyways, I don't want to make this into like, I had a list of, look, we didn't talk about the NBA in China. We're not going to talk about this either,
No. But before that incident, which is like not even a week old, there was no reason to hate the Astros. Like if you look at all the professional sports leagues and all the perennial good teams like the New England Patriots and Golden State Warriors, you can put the Houston Astros in there. I don't even know who you'd put there for hockey. If you look at all of them, the Astros are probably the least annoying of all those teams.
That's true.
So you want to hate the Astros, go ahead. I mean, not you, but other people.
Most people.
I'm rooting against the Nationals. There's no question.
You know how it is, right? A lot of people are jumping on the World Series. They haven't watched baseball all year. And they're like, oh, the Astros, they're in the World Series again. Weren't they in it 2 years ago? And like, people just resent them. And then the Nationals are this feel-good story, right? So,
anyway,
for some people.
So I am feeling... obviously a little bit better, last night and this morning than I was, after game 2. However, having said that,
Yeah.
So now it's a best of 3.
Yeah.
And-
Okay. Could I just interrupt you for a second? Just want to like set the scene a little bit. It's currently Sunday afternoon, and it's 4:43 on Sunday afternoon, and Game 5 is going to be played tonight. So by the time this podcast is released, Game 5 will have happened already. So.
That is correct.
Or will be being in the midst of being played. So we can't really, it's kind of weird timing, but just let people know where we're at,
But I just want to say that, I've spoken to some people who follow baseball, who've been watching the World Series, and one friend of mine thinks the series is over and the Astros are going to win the next 2 games easily. And I don't know about that. Like, if you look at, both teams have their pitching rotation set up perfectly.
Yeah.
And if you went to talk to Dave Martinez or AJ Hinch in private right now and said to them, off the record, how do you like your chances going forward in the next 2 games? I'm sure both of them would say, I love our chances.
Yeah. I mean, they can't say anything different.
No. I'm not saying public. I'm saying privately.
Privately? Of course they're going to say that. Like, what's interesting about this World Series is, like, I can't think of a World Series where we have 4 starting pitchers, 2 on either team, the caliber of Scherzer, Strasburg, Verlander, Cole. Like, I can't think of a World Series like this, right? I mean, we're gonna have Scherzer, Cole tonight, and then we're gonna have Strasburg, Verlander tomorrow, Tuesday. Sorry, that's insanity. Like, that's a fan's dream, right? Like, if you love baseball, this is what you want.
And yesterday's starting pitcher for Houston pitched better than all 4 of those guys.
And it was like, he only started 7 games all year, I think, that guy.
I don't even think it was that many.
It's incredible that, like, in the most important game of the season, Hinch is like, yeah, you got this, right?
Well, I mean, it just goes to show you, first of all, historical stats, you got to throw them out the window, number 1.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Sure, Verlander's been great all season, and Cole's been great all season, but you saw what they did in games 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The other thing you have to throw out the window is this guy, who may have only started 7 games all season and was in the minors.
7.
That doesn't mean anything, because have the Nationals seen him? How many teams have seen him? How many teams know his stuff? So the element of the unknown is more important than, having, a Cy Young pitcher on the mound.
Yeah. Yeah. And he started, I mean, like, he's been very, very solid for him in the limited time that he's been pitching since this year, right? They clearly have confidence in him.
I was a little disappointed when they took him out because he wasn't in any trouble. They just took him out for the sake of taking him out, which it annoys me when they do that. Yeah. And then the guy they brought in actually gave up a run.
It was weird because I felt like both teams were going into the game with the idea that they were going to heavily use their bullpen, right? This is the game, right? The 4th starter's pitching, and you're probably going to have to use guys maybe that you didn't use before. But the Astros were in a position not to use their bullpen, right?
And there's no reason to save him because he's not going to pitch again probably in this series. You might as well let him go as long as he could yesterday.
You never know. Game 7, they can bring him in relief.
I mean, I don't think they're going to need him, though. That's my point.
You might not. You might not. So how about that Fernando Rodney?
Well, I mean, by the time they brought him into the game, it was already over.
Well, it was only 4-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was 4-1. It was over because you saw the Nationals weren't generating any offense.
I know.
But you've got the worst pitcher in baseball facing possibly the best hitter in baseball. What did you expect besides a grand slam?
I actually fully expected a grand slam or a bases clearing double at least.
There you go.
It's amazing, right? Because Alex Bregman has not looked good in the World Series or even in the previous series. He does have 2 homers in the World Series already, and one of them's a grand slam, so you can't take that away from him. But like he hasn't looked like Alex Bregman is the best hitter on the Astros.
He could be the best hitter in baseball this year.
I agree. I think he's the best player in baseball. Mike Trout aside.
Even with Mike Trout, their numbers are almost very, very close if you look at them.
Bregman is an incredible defensive player as well.
That's right.
Right?
Although he made 2 errors in game 2.
I know. He one of them was an error, but it was a very difficult play, that one of them. I don't know, Bregman. If he's on fire, like they're in trouble, right? Like the Nationals are in trouble because he's a difference maker. You know.
You know what they say when you have a cough, you're supposed to take Robitussin, even though it tastes awful.
Okay.
If you're in a batting slump, you just need to face Fernando Rodney, and you're out of your slump.
I love it. There's only one good thing you could say about Fernando Rodney. I like the way he wears his cap.
I hate the way he wears his cap.
It's like his trademark, you know?
Looks like it's going to fall off every pitch.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my favorite thing about the Nationals, and I know it's crazy, is, okay, so Anibal Sanchez pitched the other game, right? You're not going to get this on any other podcast, by the way. You're not going to hear stuff like this anywhere. He didn't pitch. He didn't pitch great, Sanchez. He pitched fine, you know, like, but he had pitched. You have expectations that he's going to almost throw no hitters, you know, like he did in the other series. I like him when he's in the dugout when he's not pitching because I like the glasses that he wears.
There's a story about those glasses. Apparently him and two other guys, they were on a road trip this season and they were walking around and they saw this, you know, these little kiosks where you get stuff for like $1 or something.
And he bought a whole bunch of glasses.
And the three of them bought these weird, goofy glasses. And maybe they're not $1. Maybe they're actually expensive glasses. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's him and Para and one other guy that ended up buying the glasses.
Anyways, I just like it because one day I saw him and he had like, they would look like red lenses, and the next day he's got yellow lenses, and I'm like, what is this guy had an endless supply of glasses? Like, what's going on? So I can't wait to see what happens next.
Can I tell you a couple things that bug me about the World Series?
Things that bug me?
Yeah, let's hear it.
It's not so much the World Series. Okay, so I get it. A lot of people that are watching these games, they've never watched any Nationals games all season or any Astros games all season. So they don't know who these guys are. Like, I mean, you've heard of Max Scherzer, obviously, and you've heard of Justin Verlander, but like, do you know who the backup catcher is on either of these teams if you're not following it? No, you don't.
No.
So anytime a new guy comes into the game, you know, Joe Buck and John Smoltz, they got to talk about the guy. They got to tell you, like, oh, what this guy's done, why he's on the team, why they put him on the World Series roster. I get it. But the thing is, every guy that they bring in, Joe Buck and John Smoltz, they only have good things to say about the guy, even if the guy is terrible. Like Fernando Rodney, he's terrible, yet they somehow find only good things to say about him.
Right.
You know,
Fernando Rodney,
he's terrible, but they find good things to say about him. Just tell it like it is. The guy's terrible.
What they should be saying about Rodney and Suero is the Nationals really don't want to use these guys, but they have no one else. That's literally what the summary of those two guys.
Exactly. Right? That's what they should say, but there's
Dave
no
Martinez
chance they're ever going to say that.
Yeah. Dave Martinez is doing everything he can not to bring Suero and Rodney into the game.
Well, you could tell that Patrick Corbin was having some trouble yesterday, but Davey Martinez wasn't even making a trip to the mound because he's like, Patrick, you're in this jam. You're getting out of this jam because you're not coming out of the game anytime soon because we got no one else.
Yeah, they really have no one else.
Which was the right thing to do. I'd rather have Patrick Corbin struggling than anyone from their bullpen.
He really was struggling. He couldn't throw strikes.
In the end, he only gave up 4 runs, which wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it could have been a lot worse.
But you're right. The feeling of that game was that the Nationals were never going to score. Like, I know they got the grand slam to make it 8-1, but like, I never felt that. Yeah. Did you ever feel that they were going to score?
No, I didn't. Now, here's the other thing. This is just me being nitpicky.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you turn on your television and on the guide, you can go look at the description of the show that you're about to watch.
Sure.
It used to be back in the day, there was virtually no description, you know, for anything, especially for sporting events. Like if you looked at the description of a sporting event, it would say, you know, Montreal Canadiens versus Toronto Maple Leafs, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now these descriptions, at least with Bell, I don't know how it is with Videotron.
I'm gonna look.
They get so elaborate, these descriptions. Now, like if you're watching like an NFL game, it'll say, you know, the 5-2 Green Bay Packers, you know,
I've seen that,
take on the 7-0 whatever, you know, and then it even goes on to say how Aaron Rodgers takes his undefeated record in Lambeau. It goes on and on. It's like this whole long like synopsis. Right.
So they had a thing about the World Series.
And I just cut and pasted part of it here because this bothered me. And here's what it said on the guide. It said, you know, Washington Nationals versus Houston Astros. It goes on to say, Washington advanced to the club's first World Series in its 50th year of existence.
Oh, that's nonsense.
To me, that is erroneous because
It's
they're
wrong.
not in their 50th year of existence.
Well, I mean, I guess if they're counting all the Expos.
But that's not Washington.
I know. Yeah, you're
Anyway,
right.
again, me
that
being,
that
me,
is that's a bad take right there.
Me being
by the
nitpicky.
guide. No, that's bad. But we're the only ones that really care about that. All the Expos fans, So
And now one thing I really like about the World Series, I really like the 2-3-2 format.
It's fine. I don't have
as
a
opposed
preference
to
either way.
2-2-1-1-1, 2-3-2.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Well, it mimics the regular season a little bit more in that you play 3 games in a row,
Yes, which you should.
right? Which you should. Like all year long, you've played 3 games and you have a travel day. Then you play 3 games and you have a travel day, or sometimes you play 4. But like basically, you always play at least a 3-game series, right? And then here it's like, okay, 2 days travel day, 2. So I think it's a little bit more indicative of what the teams are used to doing and how they should be scheduling the games.
It'll never happen in hockey. I think they tried it once or twice, but and I don't think it should happen in hockey because hockey's different.
No, hockey is different. They need that travel day.
But I wonder if it should be 2-3-2 in basketball. I wonder.
There's a big debate about that. I've heard David Aldridge talk about it before, and I don't know. I think they don't like it because they feel like the home court advantage in basketball is always so great that it's like somehow if the underdog can win 1 game, right? Then all of a sudden they can sweep those 3 at home, Like I don't know. I don't know if it's valid or not or whatever, but yeah, I think they tried it at one point in basketball. Now they went away from it.
I'm done with baseball.
You are.
I am.
I just want to talk about you, Darvish.
Okay, he hasn't played in a few weeks, but okay.
So of course you saw the play where Justin Verlander tried to field the ground ball and he dove for it and then he threw it off his foot.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Okay, so you, Darvish, has been waiting 2 years to reply to Justin Verlander on Twitter.
What?
So apparently, well, I mean, you can go and look at the Twitter threads and stuff, but 2 years ago, or it's not exactly 2 years, but it's like 500 and something days ago, you, Darvish, made a terrible play fielding a ground ball. And Justin Verlander tweeted to him saying, you're making all us pitchers look like terrible athletes. You're reinforcing the stereotype that pitchers are not good athletes. And now Verlander makes that play where he throws the ball off his foot. And then, of course, you, Darvish, replies to that tweet from 2 years ago.
Good for him.
To Justin Verlander saying, hey, what happened, buddy? Kind of thing. So Verlander kind of laughed it off, and there's no hostility there, but I just think it's really funny. Like, talk about, like, keeping something in the vault,
Good for you, Darvish. I would have done the same thing.
Of course.
And by the way, it's not just you, Darvish, that's making all pitchers look like bad fielders. It's all pitchers that are making all pitchers look like bad fielders because they run away when there's a pop-up.
It's so true. Pitchers are not good fielders in general. They're really not.
Yesterday I was watching MLB Network for a couple of minutes and they were doing this sort of like a documentary on Billy Martin, and they were showing some scenes from way, way back. I don't know how long ago it was.
Okay.
And it was when the Yankees were really good and winning World Series all the time, year after year. And they showed a clip of the last out of one of the World Series that they won. The ball was popped up to the pitcher, and the pitcher was calling for it and telling everyone, get out of the way, I'm catching this ball. And he caught the ball like it was no problem.
Right. So at one point, this idea of pitchers not being able to catch pop-ups, like, I'd love to know when it started.
I don't know when it started, but back then, pitchers were allowed to catch them. Anyway, enough of that.
Right. Enough of that. Okay. So I'm done with baseball too. Let's enjoy Game 5 tonight. And actually, by the time we do our next episode, we will have a World Series champion.
Correct.
The National Hockey League.
So, I have a couple hockey notes.
That's great. Let's do it.
On our last episode, we forgot to congratulate Victor Mete on his first NHL goal of his career.
It was huge. Monkey off his back.
There was...
He's played like 2.5 seasons without scoring a goal, the guy.
Actually, so they put up a graphic when Mete finally scored his goal.
Right.
most club games played before their first NHL goal. This is just for the Canadiens.
Yeah.
So Victor Mete leads the club. It took him 127 games before he scored his first goal.
Crazy.
Here are the other players on the list for the Canadiens. Mike Komisarek, it took him 123 games.
Oh.
Lyle Odeline, it took him 93 games.
Okay.
And Craig Ludwig, it took him 86 games.
He's in good company. Those are all good defensemen, but very defensive defensemen.
Right. So those are the top 4. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting.
Solid. So did you watch any of the Habs Leafs last night?
I watched the first period because it was on before the baseball game started.
Right.
It's interesting. So I told you before the season started that I thought the Canadiens were a little bit better this season than they were last season. This is just my opinion.
Yeah.
And then, at the beginning of every game when they tell you what the 4 lines are and who's playing with who?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, last year, every time I'd watch a game and I'd see the 4 lines, I would look at the 4th line and I'd say, that 4th line belongs in the American Hockey League.
Right.
And the 3rd line isn't much better.
Yeah.
Now, when I see the 4 lines, I don't think that anymore. The 3rd and 4th line are actually decent.
The Canadiens forwards are very balanced. They have a lot of firepower. I don't want to say firepower because they don't have any stars really, but they have a lot of offensive capability on all the lines basically, right? That's what makes them a strong 5-on-5 team because they keep coming at you with one line after another, short shifts, and they keep coming after you, right? It's their defense that's not so great, and Price has been like average at best, which is why they're kind of at 500,
Now, the interesting thing is, I didn't realize this until yesterday. Apparently, the Canadiens have the 7th best power play in the league, and I don't think that's happened since Guy Lafleur was on the team.
Well, they were like 2nd worst power play in the league last year, I think, in the whole league. Like they were awful last year.
Yes, they were. They've been awful for like 20-something years.
No, you're forgetting. There were some good power play years
when Guy Carbonneau was the coach.
Yeah, they had some good power play years when Kovalev was around. Kovalev, Sheldon Surrey, Markov. Era.
You're right. I wasn't remembering that.
They had some good power play units back then. But yeah, they're getting it done. Look, there's no reason for them to not be at least league average on the power play.
Well, they're better than average.
You put on Drouin, Domi, Weber, like why would you be bad, So.
But this year the problem is the penalty killing, which I think they're dead last.
Horrible. And that's coaching.
Which explains why which explains why they're in 11th place in their conference.
Yeah, they're right there. They're the same record as basically a lot of other teams, But it was a big win last night against their big rival, the Leafs.
Yeah, I know. The Canadiens have been lucky in that they've played the Leafs every time the Leafs have had a back-to-back, and the Leafs have this thing, I don't know if you know, where anytime they have a back-to-back, they lose. They use Frederik Andersen in the first game of the back-to-back. Mm-hmm. So the Canadiens have been lucky to face the lead singer of In Excess twice already this year.
What's his name? Hutchinson.
The goalie is Hutchinson, but the lead singer of In Excess is Michael Hutchins.
Michael Hutchins. Right.
But it's
I got your joke there.
Thanks.
I see where you went with.
I appreciate that.
I see where you went with that.
And they can never tear us apart.
But in Toronto, are they worried about the Leafs?
I don't know if they're worried, but they're like,
they're not doing great.
They're not doing great, and the expectations are obviously crazy high, and
yeah.
So when if you would have told people that the Leafs would be in 7th place at this point,
yeah.
I mean, yes, it's early, but and you can jump 4 spots in the standings with 1 win.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're disappointed. Also, Tavares is injured, right? So they're not playing with a full deck.
I feel like if they lose in the first round of the playoffs again,
which could happen, by the way.
I'm making the assumption that they're going to make the playoffs, which is pretty safe, I guess. I wonder, is Babcock's job in jeopardy?
Oh, if they lose in the first round,
yeah, he's gone.
I think he's gone.
Yeah,
and the thing is, and it's unfortunate because I don't even think it's really his fault. Like, if you were the coach of the Leafs and you had this roster, you'd probably do exactly the same thing.
Yeah. The roster is really loaded with talent, but it's not constructed properly, right? It's not constructed like It's just not. It's all forwards and no defense and like a decent goalie, you know? Like,
Well, you just said about the Canadians how their forwards are balanced, but their defense is their weakness.
yeah.
The Leafs are almost the same. They're almost constructed the same way as the Canadians, and
Yeah.
neither the Leafs nor the Canadians are built in a way to win in the playoffs. I mean, if
No,
you look
absolutely
if
not.
you look at how the St. Louis Blues roster is constructed,
That's true.
you know,
That's true.
it all depends.
Yeah.
It all depends who the Leafs play. You know, they could get lucky, like that year that the Canadians made it to the conference finals. Was it against the Rangers?
Yeah.
They didn't have to face teams that they wouldn't have fared well against
Yeah,
until they
yeah.
got to the Rangers.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah.
So who knows?
Who knows? All right. So that's hockey. I really didn't expect to talk about hockey tonight.
What else do you want to talk about?
The National Football League.
Did you watch any football today?
I watched a little bit of the Bills-Eagles game today, and the Eagles pissed me off yet again in my pool because every time I picked them to win, they lose, and every time I picked them to lose, they win.
You could see what I'm wearing.
I can see what you're wearing, yes.
I'm wearing my Eagles Super Bowl champion scarf.
Speaking of football, so I haven't watched a lot of football in October because of the playoffs, the baseball playoffs.
Yeah.
And every night there's always a lot of different options of sports to watch. But this past Thursday, I don't know if you noticed, the only live sporting event that you could watch was football. So I was forced to watch the Minnesota-Washington game.
Ugh. I didn't even turn it on. The Minnesota-Washington game. I had no like desire to see what was going on there. Next morning I looked at the score and that was that.
You didn't miss anything.
I really couldn't care like what happened there. So
you didn't miss anything.
No. So it was I loved watching the Eagles today. They really played well. I don't want to risk making this into an Eagles podcast, but it was good to see them get a win.
They needed that win. If they lost today, you could almost say they're done.
Oh, it would have been over, season over. So
and
the
by
NFL
the way,
trade deadline is coming, by the way. I think it's on Tuesday.
Sorry, the NFL trade deadline, is that what you said?
Yeah. So
but you know what? There's already been a lot of trades in the NFL this season, more than I can ever recall seeing before.
But there's some big names that are potentially on the move, so it could be an interesting little week in the between games this week. Like Patrick Peterson on the Cardinals and AJ Green on Cincinnati, who's coming back from injury. There's rumors that he might be moved. Basically, the teams that are in a full rebuild mode. Kenyon Drake on the Dolphins, they're going to move that guy for sure. So contenders can pick up some good players this week.
This is where you're going to see a crazy trade where like a superstar on one team gets traded for a 4th round pick or something.
100%. Someone's getting traded for a 4th round pick this week, and you're going to be scratching your head saying, "What? A 4th round pick?"
I never understand it.
That's the way it goes in the NFL, no?
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it really is the way it goes in the NFL.
The National Basketball Association.
Well, I just wanted to say that after we recorded our last episode, like 24 hours later or 12 hours later, I found out that Zion Williamson has a torn meniscus and is going to miss 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh yeah,
which is much more serious than what the team was leading on prior to that.
It's true. When we recorded last week, we thought maybe he'd be out for a couple of weeks. We didn't think it was serious, and now he's gone for 2 months, right?
Yeah, so I was disappointed to hear that. That's all.
Pelicans are already 0-3 without him, and what are you gonna say? You know, like I hope he comes back. I hope he comes back healthy, but it's kind of scary, right? Because man, does he look like he can really like tear up this league and be the next superstar? You know. And it would be a pity if he's physically unable to do that. You know?
I just hope he's healthy, and I hope he's able to play, you know, obviously not this season, but 80 games a year or 82 games a year. And that's all. That's all I hope.
Yeah. You know what? By the time he comes back, the Pelicans are basically going to be out of it. And they're probably they're going to baby him along, probably, you know?
Well, I mean, I hope he plays.
I hope so too. Before we sign off, remember, you can listen and subscribe to new and archived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, iHeartRadio, and of course, Spotify. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear from you via email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, via Twitter @skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. As always, you can get all the links to everything I just talked about on our website, skipandjosh.com.
We leave you with this.
Josh, last week, I wanted to mention something that we didn't have time for, which is 2 weeks ago you talked about how they're using the robo-ump in one of the lower leagues. So I actually looked it up, and it's the Arizona Fall League that's using the computerized strike zone for all their games. And there was an interesting little news article. The little brother of Jason Hayward of the Cubs, he got thrown out of an Arizona Fall League game for arguing the balls and strikes.
Arguing with the computer?
Well,
With the
that's what I
robot?
don't understand, right? Because, like, who are you arguing with, right? So you say something, he basically said, like, that was crazy, I didn't like that call, and the ump threw him out. But, like, usually, the ump, the human ump, actually has, like, why was he offended, you know? Like, what did he do so bad to get himself ejected, you know? So it's just, the whole thing is a little bit weird.
That is weird. Because you can't argue with a robot.
You can't. And then I started thinking about the next thing, and I know we talked about this. So right now we're in the situation where every play by a human official is basically challenged by instant replay, right? When you watch the NFL, every play is basically challenged. In baseball, everything you look at, they show you the instant replay right away in all the sports. But what's going to happen if they have that computerized strike zone? Then what's going to happen? Are the managers going to be able to challenge the computerized strike zone and ask the human umpire to override it?
They should not be allowed to do that, because if you decide that you're using the robot or the computer or whatever you want to call it, then whatever that call is final.
Is what it is.
And if it happens to make a mistake, which it might make a mistake 1% of the time, that's still better than a human umpire, because a human umpire makes mistakes more than 1% of the time.
And we didn't talk about it earlier when we were talking about baseball, but the Dave Martinez was not happy. Who was it, Dave Martinez?
Yes.
There was
the game that
he was
Anibal
not happy.
Sanchez pitched.
He was not happy with some of the calls when Sanchez was pitching.
But if you look at what the computer said, the calls were right.
The calls are right. The computer had it right.
So there you go.
Yeah. What do you got?
Okay, so this is maybe a couple of weeks old.
Mm-hmm.
But last weekend, when I was watching a lot of sports, as I do, for 2 days, this is maybe last week or 2 weekends ago, I don't remember exactly. For 2 days, I kept seeing the same commercial over and over and over again. And it was a commercial telling me to stay tuned, because Monday there was going to be another commercial. And the commercial on Monday was a trailer for the movie Star Wars. And it was so annoying to me. Like, you're telling me to stay tuned. This is a commercial telling me to stay tuned for a commercial.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of hype about that Star Wars trailer, let me tell you.
And then I finally saw the trailer, and it wasn't even that great.
Well, all I can say about the Star Wars trailer is, for any Star Wars fan out there, anybody, the last movie had an amazing trailer. The last Star Wars movie that was out, the trailer was incredible. I was so excited to see the movie.
How was the movie itself?
That movie was hot garbage. Okay? That movie was so bad. Star Wars The Last Jedi, that movie is so bad. Like, it never deserves to be watched. I've only ever watched it once. I never went back and rewatched it or anything. And it had an amazing trailer. So all the Star Wars fans that are super hyped because the trailer for Rise of Skywalker looks really great, just remember how excited you were when you saw the trailer a couple years ago. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad I was able to get that off my chest.
One more thing. In the Eagles Bills game today, you know how Peyton Manning would always scream out, like, Omaha, Omaha, you know, when he's changing the plays?
Yeah.
Josh Allen of the Bills today screamed out Charlie Sheen.
Really?
Yeah. And Matthew was like, did he just say Charlie Sheen?
Did the play work?
No, it didn't. And that's that.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you next week then.
Have fun watching the World Series tonight. And next time we talk, we'll know who the champ is.
Okay.
Talk to you next time.
Bye.